Welcome, everybody, to Spiritual Psychotherapy, episode 10. We're kicking off the new season strong. And as I like to do, I would like to give you some just inspirational stuff in the beginning, things that have been percolating in my mind, things that I find super interesting and that have touched me in my life recently. And have good news also is that, as some of you may already know, we're going to be beginning the study of the Zohar itself tonight. And I'm hoping that we could get through a lot of it, together. We'll skip around if we need to, but Dr. Nasser's here, our resident scholar, and we have a lot of interesting things coming up, and it's very exciting for me to be able to sink my teeth into this stuff. And we have a pretty good translation from the Pritzker edition. Hey, no way, Baruch haba. I know you're going somewhere else. No worries. Don't worry. You go. I would go to Bert too if I were you. I'll see it. Thank you, brother. Enjoy. So I think it's amazing to have this Pritzker edition. It has a translation plus a commentary, and it explains a lot of deep ideas within this. So let's start off with some of the Eastern stuff, and then we'll make our way to the Zohar. So I recently read a paper talking about the following question, which is, what is the difference between mysticism or the mystical experience and the psychotic experience? I'm not sure if I mentioned this in a previous podcast, but to me, this is such an interesting topic, because it's like, how do I distinguish between if I'm losing my mind or if I'm, losing my mind in a good way? And exactly. Is there really even one? And sometimes you see these people, it looks like they're having a great time. They look like they're communicating with some kind of higher being. So the paper that I read, it had something to do with the idea of transliminality. You could type that in on Google. And it's this idea that, bottom line, they analyzed a psychologist who had a mystical experience versus a psychologist who had schizophrenia and then returned from that state. And by analyzing their different accounts of their experiences, they came up with the following idea that I thought was so profound, which is that a strong ego is one that's capable of letting go of itself. That this is the idea of ego strength. If you have ego strength, you're more likely to be a person that is going to more easily trust the universe. And once you trust the universe enough to be able to let go, you're more likely to have a pleasant mystical experience. But if you have a weak ego, if you don't have a well-defined sense of self, you're going to be kind of waiting in the darkness. You're not going to be able to have any footing almost. And you're going to be so lost that you're scared. Your ego gets afraid and it starts clinging at random things. And it starts becoming very self-referential and paranoid. So it's the difference between all is meaning, they would say, versus, which is a nice mystical idea, versus everything has a specific, unique meaning towards my ego, including street signs and numbers that I see. That's where it starts getting paranoid and schizophrenic. So a person who's actually stronger, and this came to me as very ironic, because the Eastern stuff that we often discuss is you might see it wrongly as poo-pooing the ego, as putting it down and saying, oh, we shouldn't have an ego. And the ego removes us from the mystical experience. But in reality, there's an irony here, which is, if you have a strong and well-developed sense of self, you're more likely going to be able to shuttle yourself into the mystical experience. I just felt almost like I would be remiss if I didn't tell you guys that, because this is a mistake that we could very easily make otherwise. And now I want to share with you the ending of the book that I was quoting so often last semester, called Zen Flesh, Zen Bones, which had 101 stories from Zen. And in addition, it had a bunch of other stories from later on. And to me, this book has so much depth to it. And I want to keep coming back to it later on in my life, because there's certain things that you can experience while listening to this stuff that'll blow your mind. So, stay tuned for hopefully more stuff from here. But here's the ending of this book. What is Zen? Try if you wish. But Zen comes of itself. True Zen shows in everyday living, consciousness in action. More than any limited awareness, it opens every inner door to our infinite nature. Instantly, the mind frees. How it frees? False Zen racks brains as a fiction concocted by priests and salesmen to peddle their own wares. Look at it this way: inside out and outside in. Consciousness everywhere, inclusive through you. Then you can't help living humbly in wonder. So that's the first part. I thought that was so deep. Inside out, outside in, it's continuous. And your awareness is not stuck inside. It includes the outside and the inside. And once you see that, the real you sees that, that's immediate Zen. That's quick Zen. And be careful not to go in the direction of looking at Zen as these rules of how you have to live and being moralizing at you in certain ways like other religions. That's not what it is. It's more like we say, spiritual ophthalmology, seeing clearly. So here's the second part. What is Zen? One answer. Inayat Khan tells a Hindu story of a fish who went to a queen fish and asked, I have always heard about the sea, but what is this sea? Where is it? The queen fish explained, you live, move, and have your being in the sea. The sea is within you and without you. And you are made of sea, and you will end in sea. The sea surrounds you as your own being. Another answer. That's how it ends. Right? So I'm listening to this on my audiobook. And I'm like, all right, what's the next answer? Silence. And that hit me so hard because that is the real answer of what Zen is. You could say all the words in the world, but none of them will do justice to what Zen is, which is just.
Didn't we have this before, this concept of silence?
Definitely. We've definitely brought this up 100% before. But I think this was a really profound way of them getting this across to me. But we could even kind of look at what is, I think David Foster Wallace has that famous speech. Joe Trico loves to quote it. And that famous speech of the fish are looking at each other and they hear something about somebody's talking about water, water, water. They say, the older fish are talking about water. They're like, what the hell is water? And David Foster Wallace's his main thesis in his speech is, this is water. Right here, right now, flowing through you. This is the fluid water of our lives. And it's the way that Alan Watts would say it is, you're it. Whatever it is, that's you. You're not stuck in this body and in this particular awareness. Really, you are much more expansive. But like I said, the words are nice, but that silence is the best.
So something I'm thinking is, so I was reading that book, Homo Mysticus by Rabbi Faor, and he speaks of mostly, it's a commentary on Rambam's Guide to the Perplexed, and he's talking a lot about the ineffable and how words, in a way, put a box around it. If you say Hashem's black, that means he's by default not white. And so words can't really, do
exactly.
justice. And so something that I realized is that's why when we say the Amidah, we say Hashem, and they say, Amonai, and they say propose. And I think that's sort of like reminiscent of the idea of like, okay, nothing I can say will do it justice.
Yes.
And so let me take the silence of it, it's ineffable. And then, okay, but I'll try.
Aywa. So wait, what was the part before that? You said there was a specific pasuk that alluded to this silence, or was just because I'm thinking of Lecha Dumiyat Tehillah. That's a very famous one, and that's that same idea that even though I can't speak, Adonai Sevatai Tiftach v'yagid eladecha. It's kind of like that feeling. So now that the rabbi is here, I asked him to come because we're gonna now sink our teeth into the Zohar. So I would love to hear from the rabbi, whatever comments or that he has. So I sent to you, Mickey. I think if you wanna forward to Victor and Bela, if you want to follow along on your phone, you can. I'll forward to you the PDF of the Zohar. Let me send it to you. Here we go. I'm sending to you on WhatsApp. So if you guys go to Hakdamat Sefer HaZohar, It's on page 84. You could type in the search, Rabbi Hizkiah opened. So right now we've been discussing Kabbalah last semester, the previous semester, a lot. And we've discussed different schools of thought within Kabbalah, and we've had some, allusions and references to the Zohar, but never have we actually looked at the Zohar al pi seder. And that's what I want to do with you guys tonight, is I want to actually take a look and what is this book trying to teach us? What is it talking about? So we'll start, of course, with the Hakdama, with the introduction. We'll see what sense we can make of it. And you'll see there's going to be little numbers throughout. And these numbers are endnotes that are commentaries to try to explain to us what's going on. And they're actually super helpful. So we'll start off with the first paragraph. Rabbi Hizkiah opened. Kashoshana ben ha-hochim ken ra'yati ben habanot. Like a rose among thorns, so is my beloved among the maidens. That's, of course, from Shir HaShirim, from Song of Songs. Who is a rose? Knesset Israel, Assembly of Israel. And that's a loving way of talking about Bnei Israel, almost like the wife of God, right? For there is a rose, and then there is a rose. Just as a rose among thorns is colored red and white, so Assembly of Israel includes judgment and compassion. And immediately a light bulb goes off in our heads. Oh, judgment and compassion. I know those as two of the most important sefirot. Just as a rose has 13 petals, so Assembly of Israel has 13 qualities of compassion surrounding her on every side, right? The Yag Midot. So we'll discuss all this in depth. The 13 qualities of and attributes that God reveals to Moses when? After he asks God to show him his glory. And God says, I can't show you my front, I'll show you my back. And then Moses has this immediate light bulb moment, aha! And he bows before God and he says, please forgive them because they're a stiff-necked nation, because of what they're lacking. It's almost like he learned something about God's compassion, and then God reveals to him, Hashem kilahum v'hanun, God is everlastingly merciful. Similarly, from the moment Elohim, God, is mentioned, it generates 13 words to surround Knesset Israel, Assembly of Israel, and protect her. Then it is mentioned again. Why again? To produce 5 sturdy leaves surrounding the rose. So what's going on here is they're counting the words between when it says the word God or Elohim in the text, from the first one to the second one, 13 words in between.
In which text?
In Bereshit, right? Bereshit bara Elohim et Hashem ha'aretz ve'aretz ha'itato ve'ol v'chosh chapel etehom Elohim and ha'avet al bnei hamayim v'yomer Elohim yehi or v'hi or. So between the first and the second is 13 words. Between the second and the third is 5 words. All right. So why? Again, to produce 5 sturdy leaves surrounding the rose. So the 13 words represented the 13 attributes of God, and the 5 words in between the second and third appearances of God's name represented these 5 sturdy leaves surrounding the rose, and we'll see what that means according to the interpretation and the commentary. These 5 are called salvation. They are 5 gates. Concerning this mystery, it is written, I raise the cup of salvation. Kos Yeshuot Esab Shem Adonai Ikra. Right? I raise this cup of salvation. So somehow this has to do with these 5 gates that are hidden in between the second and third names of God. This is the cup of blessing, which should rest on 5 fingers, right? When you hold a cup, you're holding it on your one hand with 5 fingers and no more. Like the rose sitting on 5 sturdy leaves, paradigm of 5 fingers. This rose is the cup of blessing. So now, initially it started off the paragraph. What is this rose? This rose is Israel. But now it's saying, okay, what else is this rose? This rose is the cup of blessing. So when I read this, I don't know if you've ever thought of it like this, but I see it as like, that we should be a blessing. Our job as Israel in the world is to be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation, to be a blessing unto the world. And now this is saying we are a cup of blessing to the world. That's kind of how I read it. So we could look at,
Israel is a key word in the Zohar. does not refer to Bnei Israel, it refers to the Shekhinah.
Oh, really? Okay. Thank you. See, this is why we need the rabbi here. So the rabbi said that Knesset Israel actually represents the Shekhinah. And I got confused about that because later on it makes that more explicit. And I was wondering, all right, so which is it? Is it Israel or is it the Shekhinah? Is it that lowest level of the divine or is it Israel? So the rabbi is saying it's actually the divine itself. Okay, so the Shekhinah, the divine presence, is what's being hinted at when it talks about this rose between and that's that has these 13 attributes, which makes more sense, and that's surrounding Israel. Okay, so let's see.
What page are you on? I'm so sorry.
Sorry, no problem. I was on page 84, I believe. And now if you click that number 1, you go to page 373. So I clicked it. So now what do we see? It can mean lily or lotus, but the Rabbi Hazkiah probably has in mind a rose. So skip to number 2, Assembly of Israel. Okay, so in Rabbinic Hebrew, this phrase denotes the people of Israel. Okay, the Midrash on the Song of Songs describes an allegorical love affair between the maiden, the earthly community of Israel, and her lover. Shir HaShirim does the same thing. In the Zohar, Knesset Israel can refer to the earthly community, but also often primarily to the Shekhinah, like the rabbi was saying. That it doesn't have to refer to Israel. It could also be referring to the part of God that is dwelling with Israel. The divine feminine counterpart of the people, the aspect of God most intimately connected with them. The lovers in the Song of Songs are pictured as the divine couple, Tiferet and Shekhinah. So this is probably one of the most common motifs in the whole of Zoharic literature and in Kabbalah, is this relationship between Tiferet and Shekhinah. And I think another name for Tiferet is Yesod, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe, sorry, is
No.
Yesod is
Yesod is the 9th one, Tiferet is above, in the middle.
okay, I'm sorry.
Yesod is Sadiq,
Yeah.
Phallus, Joseph, Covenant, Foundation. By the way, Elohim,
It is Malchut.
Binah.
Sorry, yeah.
Elohim is Binah.
Different. Okay.
So when we're talking about Elohim, that's actually Binah. And they're saying that the blessings come from Keter, which is the top,
Yes.
to Binah, and then goes down to all the way to Shekhinah or Malkut, whatever you want to say.
Okay, so Shekhinah and Malchut are different ones.
No, they're the same thing. Shekhinah and Malkut are the
Okay,
same.
that's what I was getting confused. So Malchut and Shekhinah are the same, and that's like the receptive feminine part.
Yes.
And Tiferet is the male part, but it's different than Yesod.
No, Tiferet is not the male part. Yesod is the male part.
Yesod is the male part.
Tiferet and Yesod are both the male parts.
Oh, Tiferet and Yesod are both male parts.
Sorry.
Also, right above
Okay. So Tiferet is above Yesod, but Tiferet is still there we go. I need this picture next to me. Thank you
You
so
need
much.
the diagram.
Yes. So if you guys could pull up a diagram, you can. So I see now, Tiferet almost is part of the torso, but it still somehow has direct relationship with Malchut, also known as Shekhinah. That's what it is. And Yesod as well, thank you so much, Maggie. Yesod as well has that relationship with Shekhinah. So bottom line, this idea of Knesset Israel, this one who gathers up Israel, really is deeply referring to the lowest level of the Sefirot, which is Malchut or Shekhinah, the divine presence. So we mentioned this rose with the red and the white. So what is that? It's also called Rosa Gallica versicolor, also known as Rosa Mundi, one of the oldest striped roses. So here they just talk a little bit about the botany of it, which we don't have to get into. But the interestingly, elsewhere the Zohar alludes to the process of distilling oil from the petals of the flower to produce rose water, mizahar, a popular remedy. During this process, the color gradually changes from red to white. So I don't know if there's any importance to that, but maybe something.
Is red like the Bnei Israel and white the Shekhinah?
Red and white are going to be that din and rachamim.
Mhm.
So if wine is red, so you add the water to the wine to bring rachamim.
Really?
Thank you.
Wow, interesting. So That's one
All
thing.
that's Kabbalistic, and the way you hold the cup is that
Is
your
Mhm.
palm. That's
Yes,
Kabbalistic.
I've seen that.
5 fingers.
Yes. Okay. That makes more sense. I've always seen that. I'm like, that's not a very smart way to hold the cup. You're going to spill it. That's very funny. Very interesting. Okay. And then the other question is this idea of it being like a remedy in the ancient world. Maybe there's something to that. Maybe this idea of the Shekhinah healing Israel. I don't know if I'm reading too far into it. But it seems like the rose water is somehow being alluded to here. And I think that's what Pritzker is trying to say. 13 petals, 13 qualities of compassion. So a rose blossom can have 13 petals in its second tier. In rabbinic tradition, God's 13 attributes of compassion are derived from Exodus 34. According to Kabbalah, these qualities originate in Keter, like Dr. Nasser was saying. The highest Sefirah, the realm of total compassion, untainted by judgment. So it seems like everything is starting off from Keter. And there's this whole question I remember from a couple of semesters ago, is Keter actually God itself? Or is Keter separate from God? Is it like an emanation? And it's almost unclear that Keter is almost transliminal. And we're not quite sure what Keter is, but it's the highest of the 10 Sefirot.
It's also known as Ein.
As ayin, exactly. Yeah, as nothingness. And that's the whole irony. Is it there? Is it not there? Is it God? Is it not God? And we have this idea of yesh me'ayin, something from nothing. And if God always was, then God must have been that nothing as well. And by the way, the Eastern guys say exactly that. So the idea here seems to be all of these qualities and all these emanations, all these numbers are coming really from the one, from the Keter, from that crown. And that's the realm of total compassion, untainted by judgment. So that's interesting. To me, that says that that's totally dominated by the feminine and there's no masculine there. Does that make sense? Because it's saying that is a realm that is totally untainted by judgment and it's full on compassion. What does that mean?
Well, it's not yet male female. That's the right and left.
Yeah, so it's not even yet male female. So it precedes the male female, but for some reason it's described here as fully compassionate. That's the
Well, it's giving. So.
it's giving, yeah. In a way, it's almost like a mother to the rest of the Sefirot. But it could also be like the male as well, I guess, giving the same way the male gives. So
The second Sefirah is male and the third is female.
okay, second Sefirah is male, third is female.
Binah is like the mother.
Yes.
All the rest of the seven.
Yes, Baruch haba, Baruch. I can't believe this is amazing to have you. Baruch haba, what a pleasure. So we were just talking about Keter being that central one on top. Next one, Elohim, God is mentioned. The divine name Elohim, God, refers here to Binah, the divine mother. So I'll pull up here again what that is. But now we finished with Keter, which is the one that it's starting off from, and then now it goes to the left side, which is I think the feminine side, or Binah. And Elohim is referring to that. So it's the divine mother. Between its first and second occurrences in the opening verses of Genesis, there are 13 words which allude to the 13 qualities of compassion originating in Keter, emanating from Binah, and surrounding the rose of Shekhinah. So it's originating in Keter. It's housed by the mother, Binah, and that's what Elohim is. Elohim is that second Sefirah that's bringing forth everything in creation, and that's what's denoted by Binah or Elohim. Interesting. And then finally, it's surrounding the rose of Shekhinah. Baruch haba ID. Sorry for the early start. So we started talking about
I'm sorry. I just saw that now, and I have to get off at 9. And I
no
thought
worries.
I was sitting upstairs for a half hour, and then I looked at my phone. It was charged. It said you started at 8, but anyway.
No worries at all. Listen, you came perfect timing. We're right in the thick of it. So we're talking about this idea of the 10 Sefirot, these 10 emanations of God. Just to very briefly summarize, everything you could look up if you want a diagram. Everything's starting off from that top Sefirah, which is Keter, and which is almost like, is this part of God? Is it not part of God? And from this crown of God, everything else is emanating forth towards the other sefirot, towards this mother Binah, and then it's surrounding the Shekhinah, which is also known as the rose, according to the text. So it's very cryptic, but it started off with Israel is like this rose surrounded by thorns, and really the rose is a connotation of this Shekhinah, this divine presence. So between the first Elohim, second Elohim, 13 words, those are the 13 attributes of God. Now, second and third, we have the 5 sturdy leaves. The leaves of rose plants grow in clusters of 5, 9, or 13 leaves. So that's interesting. And between the second and third occurrences of Elohim in Genesis are 5 words, like we said, alluding to 5 divine leaves. The 5 sefirot emanating from Binah and transmitting the flow to Shekhinah. So right now, it's very clear that these sefirot, they come from Binah and then they go to Shekhinah. Those are the 5 sefirot in between Binah and Shekhinah.
So the top one is Ein Sof.
Yes.
The bottom one is Shekhinah.
Oh, so when you were saying En, it's also En Sof.
Yeah, Ein Sof. But the bottom one is Malchut.
Bottom one is Malchut and Shekhinah.
It's the Shekhinah. And so between Ein Sof to Shekhinah, which is Hashem's involvement with Israel, there's these 6 sefirot, but then the mother one it's saying is Binah.
So there's 6 in between, but really Binah is considered like the mother, and the other 5 is hinted to, but because there's only 5 words in between the second and third Elohims in the text. So it's pretty deep stuff, but you could kind of see where it's coming from and the structure they're trying to build. So obviously, just as a side note, you don't have to think of this as absolute. You could think of it as relative, but a way towards reaching the absolute in terms of your meditation or your understanding of these deep ideas. So what are these sefirot? What are the 5 sefirot in between Binah, the mother, and Shekhinah, the divine presence? The 5 sefirot are Hesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, including Yesod, Netzach, and Hod. So Hesed is loving kindness, literally. Gevurah is strength. Tiferet is beauty. Yesod is the foundation, also known as the divine phallus. Netzach and Hod. Netzach is like everlastingness, and Hod is glory. And obviously this stuff seems very out there right now, but as we go along in the text, we'll start to understand more and more about what this is saying. So salvation, we said that this rose is compared, we say, I lift up this cup of salvation. We're comparing the rose to the cup of salvation. So here it says the flow of emanation saves the rose of Shekhinah from the demonic thorns surrounding her. So somehow this emanatory flow of God's energy is saving the divine presence, or the lowest level of the Sefirot, the Shekhinah, from the thorns, which are like Sitra Ahra, these demonic energies that are surrounding the Shekhinah. So constantly, this lowest level of God's emanations is in need of a divine energy to protect it from the demonic thorns that might be threatening towards it. And it's also comparing these 5 Sefirot to 5 gates. Let's see number 8. 5 gates by which one enters the divine realm. So now it's telling us something very interesting. It seems these particular 5 Sefirot are 5 gates towards entering the divine realm. Hesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Yesod, Netzach, and Hod. And Tiferet and Yesod are included in this under the same umbrella. But somehow we'll see later on how this might act as some kind of gate towards the divine. A cup of blessing on 5 fingers. What does that mean? According to the Talmud, the cup of wine is held in the right hand during the blessing after food, and you'll see during Havdalah, people are holding it, like you said, with their palm under the cup.
Actually, I'll say that we mentioned this before, but underlying idea of Kabbalah, they said, is to study Maaseh Merkavah and Maaseh Bereshit,
Yeah.
and specifically to do so on Shabbat. And we're seeing a lot of parallels here between the rituals we do on Shabbat with this opening.
Wow.
That's it's not really Haftalah that we say that during Kiddush
Mm-hmm.
and etc. And I think it's going to continue maybe with that motif of like, we say Zecher L'Maaseh Bereshit,
Yes.
etc. And so
Amazing. Wow. That has a lot to do with Shabbat. And you're 100% right, because we're going to see that it's going to go through a lot of these words in a pasuk, and it's going to compare it's going to break it down into 7. And the 7th one is going to be compared to Shabbat. So it's exactly what you said. Tov kivanta, as they say. Let's see. Second paragraph of the Hakdama. From the second Elohim till the third, 5 words appear. Like we said, from here on, light, created, concealed, contained in the covenant, right? So somehow this light of God is being, right? So when it says, and God said, let there be light, and there was light, where was this contained? It was contained in the Berit, in the covenant, entering the rose, emitting seed into her. So the rose, or the Shekhinah, is the divine mother as well, similar to Binah, and it's receiving that seed of the divine light. This is the tree bearing fruit with its seed in it. When it says that God created Etz peri ose peri lemino asher zara orbo leminehu, that God is creating a tree with its seed in it, it's actually referring to Shekhinah as well, which is compared to this tree. That seed endures in the actual sign of covenant. Just as the image of the covenant is sewn in 42 couplings of that seed, so the engraved explicit name is sewn in 42 letters of the act of creation. So let's see what this is talking about, because this is pretty deep, but it has something to do with the 42 letter name of God. So, and some will say, like we'll see, that it's referring to the first 42 letters of the Torah, from the Bet of Bereshit to the Bet of Bohu. So we'll see that in a minute. Light created and destroyed. Rabbi Azar says in Masechet Hagigah 12a, which is right before talking about Arba'a Nechnesu Pardes, the 4 people that went into the paradise, which we've discussed at length. I actually taught it 2 Shabbats ago in Allenhurst. With the light created by the blessed one, holy be he, on the first day, one could gaze and see from one end of the universe to the other. So it's saying with that light that God created in the very beginning of creation, a person could have the perspective of the entirety of the universe. So this is incredible, because that's
and through time, also through time.
Through time, exactly. So through space-time.
Right.
So that's the utmost of the mystical experience. You talk about somebody peaking on the biggest psychedelic ego death, probably has something to do with having such an expansive perspective that you're able to look at everything in creation in space and time. And when it says God created the light, that's what it's talking about. Yeah.
That's I think what he's asking for.
Yes, exactly. And he's telling him, Moses, I'm sorry, honey, you're not going to be able to live and see that. You fundamentally, your ego needs to die in order to see that. And probably also you will actually physically need to die in order to get the full glimpse of what God is seeing at all times, which is everything in space-time all at once, all the time. It's like that movie, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. So when the blessed Holy One foresaw the corrupt deeds of the generation of the flood and the generation of the dispersion, Dora Mabul, Dora Pelaga, he immediately hid it from them. He hid this light, as it is written. The light of the wicked is withheld, as it says in Eov. For whom did he hide it? Who is God hiding this unbelievable perspective of light, of everything in space-time all at once? For the righteous in the time to come, or haganuz lasaddikim. We all learned that in first grade, I'm sure. Maybe not the Barkai guys. You got everyone here. Yeah. So I guess I learned it in first grade. Meg and David. That's the pros and cons of going to Barkai.
Yeah, that was a pro, right?
Yeah, exactly. I guess now you'll be blown away by it at this age. It's good. It's for me. It's like, I heard this already. So elsewhere, the Midrash links the hidden light with Psalms. Light is sown for the righteous. Okay, so amazingly, it's continuing to emphasize this idea that this light, this divine light, is something that you can see if you are fully righteous and if you follow in whatever divine life that you can. Rabbi Hizkiah now specifies where the primordial light was concealed. So this light of God, where is it hidden? In the covenant, in the Berit itself. Wow, what does that mean? What is covenant? What is Berit a hint to? Which is a name for the Sefirah of Yesod, the divine phallus. Somehow, which makes sense, right? Because Berit Milah, where do you get the Berit Milah? Over there. And when it says by Abraham Avinu, Simna yadecha tahat yerechi, where is he putting his hand? He's putting his hand on his phallus, because in those, Joey Miz taught me this. In those days, that was the holiest thing they had, was their Berit Milah. So when you put your hand, that's like putting your hand on the Torah, lehavdil. Today we have to say lehavdil, but in those days they had that perspective of like, this is a holy thing. And it's something Ronnie Bennett taught me, just like the Bnei Israel are passing through the split sea. It's compared in Tehillim to the sperm passing through the Berit, through the covenant of the Berit Milah. So when you circumcise your son, you're guaranteeing that his child will pass through the covenant. Just like we passed through the Gezarim Ha'eleh in the Yam Suf, and Abraham Avinu passed through the split animals during Berit Ben Abetarim. It's all connected. So that's everything that's hidden in this idea of the phallus being the Berit, and somehow the light is hidden there. Now, you want to... Exactly. I hope they didn't teach you that. So it's of course, it's the side of the circumcision. Yesod is also known as righteous, right? Sadiq Yesod Olam, and Yosef HaSadiq is the one that's affiliated with this Sefirah. Why? Because he didn't sleep with Eshet Potifar, because he withheld his Yesod, his phallus, from the person that it wasn't supposed to go to, because she was married, and he didn't break the covenant. And that way, their covenant of marriage, he didn't break. So it's really so deep and so interesting. The question that I have is, what else is reflected in the physical? So people talk about having sex and that being a peak experience. Well, you don't have to go that far. You don't have to actually say that that's the only way to have a peak experience, but it seems like the mystical experience is so pleasurable that the best kind of analogy that we have in the physical realm is when a person is climaxing. And that's, if we were kind of able to, take away a lot of the societal associations that we have of sex being something that's taboo, we could start thinking of it like, yes, that makes sense. It's almost an orgasmic experience to merge with God. So to me, I see all that stuff here. And the light of God is hidden there. And that's the feeling of like, wow, I'm fully connected with God. Just like when you're in bed and you feel fully connected to your wife or your husband. And it's like an unbelievable experience to feel larger than yourself, which is a very Jonathan Haidt idea.
I understand. But what about women who don't have a phallus?
Yeah.
They don't have this holy place.
So no, so God forbid, I would never say that. It's a very good question. I think it's a metaphor. I think it's trying to explain, like, okay, what is this experience like? So for the woman, her experience would probably be the same kind of thing when a woman is climaxing. She's able to have this experience, but at the same time, these divine emanations and these sefirot are only hints at what's going on in the divine realm. And I think 100% it's not to be taken literally. And of course, 100% women can have these types of mystical experiences and these connections with God. Is a fantastic question. Yeah, exactly. A perfect point.
Say
When-
that again?
Even everyone has all of these,
Exactly.
the feminine, the masculine, like the divine that we're talking about.
Exactly.
Like it's everybody, you know.
Everybody has the masculine and feminine parts of themselves in a spiritual sense. That's what he's saying. And even a woman would have a divine phallus.
Yeah.
As weird as that might sound.
It was a weird thing to say.
Yeah, no, it was, I think you got the point
I had to
across.
say it, but it wasn't.
That was great.
I also do have a question.
Please,
With
yeah.
The light, like was this light of God that we're talking about, and then like even like Moshe, he's asking for it, and the guy's like, no, like is it even something to chase? Like why even learn about it if it's not something to chase?
It's a great
Or,
question.
like just like with sex, you're not trying to really chase it.
Mhm.
You're not trying, that's like kind of pollutes, but maybe like it's something that comes like Moshe, like it's something that's gonna come to you when your ego dies, or
Yeah. And
like
that's a lot of the Zen stuff is you can't force it, like we started the class off with.
exactly. So but here in the we're learning, and like they're talking a lot about it. Like, are they chasing it? Are they trying to learn about it? What is the actual point?
Fantastic question. So what I'll say is, I'm reading now Carlos Castaneda's amazing book. My rabbi in Israel recommended I listen to it, or that I read it. I'm listening to it on Audible. It's called Tales of Power. And it's about this guy that, is in the desert in New Mexico, and he's being taught by his guru almost how to be a warrior in a spiritual sense, how to be like a sorcerer almost. And one of the messages that he teaches him is that it's okay to set an intention in a certain way and allow yourself to head towards that intention. And I think that,
Putting in the GPS.
yes.
And then it's not really a direct route,
Exactly.
but
And
putting it in GPS.
Exactly. And I'm reading Thich Nhat Hanh as well. And he says in the diamond that cuts through illusion, which is like a very Buddhist thing, is that the best wish that you can have is the wish to merge with everything. And you should have that wish.
Mhm.
So there's almost like a paradoxical element to it. Like, don't desire, but you should desire to have no desires.
Yeah.
That you can't get around it. You have to, the words can only go so far, but it's okay to have that intention, but eventually let go of everything.
Yeah.
Let go of letting go also,
For sure.
but
Unless you're fully monkeying out, you're not going to be there 24/7.
exactly,
But yeah.
exactly. Because it's not enough to just say, oh, I'll be Zen by just being whatever I'm doing. No. You have to do something.
Yeah.
That's that's the best I could say, but fantastic question. Okay. So elsewhere, the Midrash links the hidden light with Psalms. Light is sown for the righteous in Psalms 97. Rabbi Hizkiah now specifies where the primordial light was concealed in the covenant, which is a name for the Sefer Yesod, the righteous phallus, the divine phallus. We said, side of the covenant of circumcision. Yesod, also known as Sadiq. Tree bearing fruit. The tree symbolizes male divinity. Okay, interesting.
The idea of putting the seed, the idea of,
Yes,
like the
exactly.
man,
The tree is providing the seed, exactly, to the Shekhinah, which is receiving it. The ineffable name is the explicit name is the ineffable name Yod Ke Vav Ke. That was number 12, talking about the engraved explicit name is sown in 42 letters of the act of creation. So somehow the name Yod Ke Vav Ke is hidden in the 42 letter name of God. What does that mean? 42 couplings, 42 letters of the act of creation. The 42 letter name is mentioned in the name of Rav, though not recorded in Masechet Kiddushin. So according to one later view, it consists of the first 42 letters of the Torah, from the bet of Bereshit through the bet of Bohu, void. So somehow from bet to bet of Bereshit to Bohu is these 42 letters that might be having something to do with the 42 letter name of God. So that's interesting. But the real question is, all right, how do you make Yod Ke Vav Ke into 42 letter name of God, which seems to be what the text is actually saying. So we'll look at the next paragraph. You see Cordovero, right, who wrote Pardes Rimonim. He describes how the name Yod Ke Vav Ke, the engraved explicit name, can be permuted into 42 letter name. In Zohar 1:9, Moshe's staff is described as radiating the engraved name in every direction with the radiance of the wise who engraved the explicit name in 42 colors. Wow. So that's deep. Somehow Moshe Rabbeinu's staff was able to radiate these 42 letter name of God with 42 colors, whatever that means. There's got to be something deeper there. The Zohar says the 42 holy letters of the holy name by which heaven and earth were created. So even deeper, it's saying heaven and earth were created with these 42 letters. Maybe they're actually those first 42 letters of creation itself. But the question is, how do you see them within Yod Ke Vav Ke? We don't know.
The way that I understand this is that something we may not have known is that each of the attributes also have one of Hashem's name that are connected to it. And so I don't want to say all of them, but the Shin Daled Yud,
Yes.
Yud Ke Vav Ke, and Hashem's name. So each one has to do with a different one, and we know that the world was made. We're using these attributes.
Wow.
So it's used. They say from Hashem's name, but maybe what it could be is also by using these sefirot. Amazing.
I think this is all possible, and I think hopefully as we keep reading, maybe we'll hear more hints to this. But I love the participation. It's so valuable. Like I'm just as clueless as you guys are, but you guys know so much, and it's helping me understand. That's right. Let's see. When we finish the whole book, we'll see. Yeah, Baruch Hashem. I love it. So now we can actually start with Bereshit. So Bereshit, in the beginning, Rabbi Shimon opened. The blossoms have appeared on the earth. The time of pruning has arrived. The voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land. And this is in Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs, chapter 2. So interestingly enough, every part of that pasuk, of that verse, is going to be parsed by Rabbi Shimon in order to try to understand the 7 days of creation. The blossoms are the act of creation which appeared on the earth. All right, so the very beginning of the pasuk is the very beginning of creation. When? On the third day, as it is written, the earth brought forth vegetation, then they appeared on the earth. Right, so this idea of vegetation is the very first real act of creation, according to this. Sorry, maybe not the first one, but an important one that this pasuk is hinting at. So it's the third day. Of course, we know the third day is when vegetation came forth. Then they appeared on earth. The time of pruning has arrived is the fourth day, on which the pruning of tyrants took place. So somehow the fourth day represents pruning of tyrants. So let's see how that's hinted at. Me'orot, as it says in Bereshit, the heavenly celestial bodies that were created, lights spelled deficiently, right? Meaning they don't have their vavim. The vavs are missing in the word. It's spelled in a certain way without every letter that could have been there. The voice of the turtle dove is the fifth day, as it is written, let the waters swarm with a swarm of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the expanse of the sky, generating offspring. So, of course, that's more explicit because birds and fish were created on the fifth day. Is heard is the sixth day, as it is written, let us make a human being who is destined to declare, acting before hearing, for it is written, Naaseh v'nishma, right? Because heard reminds us, people, the Bnei Israel are going to say later on, let us do and let us hear. Let us make is the very last day before Shabbat, which is a human being, and it is written Naaseh, right? So Naaseh v'nishma, we will do and we will listen. In our land, so that was the sixth day. In our land is the Sabbath day. Paradigm of the land of eternal life. So this is what you were hinting at, Mickey, is that there's a lot to do here with everything leading up to Shabbat. So let's see what the commentary says to try to understand this on a deeper level. So up to number 14. Pruning of tyrants. Zemir is usually translated singing of in this verse, but Rabbi Shimon understands it as the pruning of the demonic powers, the tyrants, or the pruning of humans by the demonic tyrants. So somehow on the fourth day, this is the pruning of tyrants because the me'orot, let's see, number 15, lights spelled deficiently. In Genesis 1:14, the word me'orot is written without vavs, like we said, the vowel letters. Such variant spelling is common in the Torah and affects neither pronunciation nor the plain meaning of the words. This deficient spelling implies that something was missing on the fourth day of creation, a lack representing the potential for evil or curse, me'ira, right? The Torah talks about the word me'ira as, in kitabo, and among all the curses, me'ira is one of the curses. So me'ira here, it's actually making a very subtle and interesting point that what is a curse? It's the lack of goodness. And when you read something without the vavs there, it's saying maybe that's what the curse is. That it's the lack of the light is the darkness.
That's we've had this conversation.
Yes.
What is evil? How does Hashem have evil in him?
Exactly.
I think the answer was that it's the lack of Hashem that's the evil.
Exactly.
Where Hashem hides his face and allows for the evil.
That's why evil, in a sense, is an illusion, because all there really is this light of God. When you don't see that light, you see something else. But are you really seeing something that's there, or are you just seeing a lack? And that's what Harambam would call ha'aded, exactly like you're saying. Ha'aded meaning the hiding or the lack of the light and the goodness. We will do and we will listen. Spoken by the people of Israel on Mount Sinai. With these words, Israel demonstrated true faith by committing themselves to fulfill and enact God's word, even before hearing the details. So this was like the highest level that man could ever get to, is saying, we're going to follow you 100%, and then we'll hear what you have to say. But the first thing we want to do is be obedient to you, God. So to me, that's amazing, because it's saying already just the word to hear in the pasuk reminds us of human beings, because the purpose of human beings is to get to that highest level of doing things in service of a higher power. That's why we're here. Like it says, the whole purpose of creation, in a sense, was so that man could follow in the footsteps of God and know God in whatever he was doing or she's doing. Great. Paradigm of the land. According to the Masechet Berachot, the Shabbat is a reflection of the world to come. It's me'en olam haba. Shabbat is a taste and a reflection of the world to come. Why? Because it's a time when we've arrived. This is the time when we could put down all our work, and it's ve'asita kol melachtecha, and that's why Shabbat is like the land. It's like the land of olam haba, Gan Eden almost.
Also, I think alluding to entering Knesset Eretz Yisrael.
Yes. When we finally get there, it's all there.
I'll get you through the mitzvah, let's say, in the Torah, that's what it was.
Beautiful.
40 days, and when Yeshua crosses that was supposed to be a pivotal moment.
Amazing. Wow, Baruch haba. I'm sorry for the miscommunication about time.
Because I would have been here at 9:30.
Amazing. All right, Hadid. Yeah, by the way, we'll spend a little bit more time because we started late, so you'll catch the end of it. Don't worry about it. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
People are catching on to your live stream.
Amazing.
A couple of guys that stumbled across Franco posted his clay.
Wow, very nice. And they told me I look like Moshe Rabbeinu after you came down from Sinai, but I definitely wouldn't go even close to that far. But it's a nice thing people to say. So now we're saying the next part. The next part of the Zohar is so interesting. This is one of my favorite paragraphs. I want to hear from you guys what you think this means. The blossoms are the patriarchs. So initially it was saying the blossoms are like that third day of creation. Now it's saying, no. Maybe the blossoms are the avot, the patriarchs who entered the divine mind before creation and entered the world that is coming, where they were treasured away. So before God even created the world, he had in mind the avot. He said, they are enough of a reason for me to create the whole world. From there, they emerged secretly and were concealed within prophets of truth. So somehow the avot are hidden within all the later nevi'im that come about. That's unbelievable. When Joseph was born, they were concealed within him. The avot, their legacy and their energy or whatever they represent is carried by Yosef, the person. When Joseph entered the Holy Land, he planted them there. Then they appeared on earth, were revealed there. When are they visible? When the rainbow is revealed in the world. When the rainbow appears, they are revealed. Then the time of pruning has arrived, time to excise the wicked from the world. Why are they spared? Because the blossoms have appeared on the earth. Had they not appeared, they would not remain in the world, nor would the world endure. Right? So it's almost like because of the avot, because of the zechut of the avot, the entire world is deserving of continuing. Otherwise, it wouldn't be deserving. So we'll see what the commentary is going to say. Who sustains the world, enabling the patriarchs to be revealed? The voice of children engaging in Torah. Wow. That it's a continuous sustenance of the world comes from the zechut of the fathers through the voice of children engaging in study of Torah, which is interesting because we have mepi olelim veyonakim yisad ta'oz leman sorerecha lehashbit oyev umitnakem. It's a very interesting pasuk. Ronnie Bennett taught me about it at the end of Psalm 8, right? Ki eresh hamecha ma'aseh etzbe'otecha. When I gaze upon the heavens, the work of your fingers, what is man that you should care about him? Son of man, that you should be mindful of him. It's exactly this. Why, Hashem, do you even care about humankind? A lot of, kind of Kabbalistic imagery there. That God, you made men only one level less than the divine, which is a lot of this energy, right? And you gave him this glory. Called all this stuff beneath his feet. It's like man is at the pinnacle of creation. On the one hand, we're so tiny. And then it ends with this pasuk of mepi olalim veyonakim yisad ta'oz. And if you look at Ronnie Bennett's commentary, you'll see he compares the psalmist looking up at Shamayim and looking up at the stars and the heavens and everything that God created to Avraham Avinu going up and looking at the Shamayim, and God saying, go and count the stars. And it's literally commentary on Abraham's experience. And this idea of Mepi Olalim Veyonakim Yisad Ta'oz is that the covenant is sustained through the hope that's given by the children, because the covenant is always about 3 to 4 generations, that even if 3 to 4 generations are going to suffer, or the children will save the world. The children are our hope. They are the divine salvation. And that's exactly what's going on here. The voice of children engaging in Torah. For the sake of those children, the world is saved. Corresponding to them, we will make you wreaths of gold. As it says in Shir HaShirim, these are little children, youngsters, as it is written, make 2 cherubim of gold. And that is a hint at the idea of youth and children being the hope of the world. So let's see what the commentary says here, number 18. Patriarchs who entered. See Bereshit Rabbah, 6 things preceded creation. The patriarchs arose and thought were intended to be created, right? Hashem, one of the things Hashem intended before creation was the creation of the Avot, the forefathers. In the Kabbalah, the patriarchs Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov represent the triad of Sefirot, Hesed, Gevurah, and Tiferet, which makes sense that God almost had those in mind before he created the physical world. Those first 3, top after Keter, Sefirot. The world that is coming, Alma De'ateh, right? Olam Haba, really in Aramaic is called Alma De'ateh, the world that is coming. Equivalent to of the rabbinic word in Hebrew, Olam Haba. The world that is coming, this concept is often understood as referring to the hereafter and is usually translated as the world to come. From another point of view, however, the world that is coming already exists. We've discussed this in class before, that it feels that it's concomitant with creation. People who've had a mystical experience say it's here now, if you're taking that correct perspective. Occupying another dimension. The wise call it Ha'olam Haba, not because it does not exist now, but for us today in this world, it is still to come. For those of us who don't have that perspective yet, it's still to come, but it is now. Don't make that mistake.
Even the Rambam says like hell is really on earth,
Beautiful. I mean, it says here CF Maimonides, so I'm sure maybe that's the one.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I think that there's also some element of Olam Haba, some element of perfection we will reach.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that a big distinction between maybe
Yeah.
between Olam Haba and Hayeh HaOlam Haba.
You were telling me this. Yeah.
Hayeh could be in this world, but because they say this means Yomam Balayla or something like that. Yomam means this world, Laila means the next world. So
Yes.
So I think there's still also something to come.
Yes.
You can definitely, and what it sounds like right here, which I love, is it's saying the process almost of the Sefirot functioning is essence of Olam Haba that is currently happening.
Yes, I think part of it also is that once you do get to Olam Haba, you get to look back at your whole life and you say, holy cow, I was there all along. It's that kind of same idea. Exactly. It's like footprints in the sand. The whole time God was there with me and I didn't even know. Like Yaakov Avinu on, when he was at Bet El. Ve'anochi lo yadati, right? This was Bet Elohim. I had no idea. Exactly. That's the thing. The world to come does not succeed this world in time, but exists from eternity as a reality outside and above time to which the soul ascends. Beautiful. Transcends space-time. In Kabbalah, the world that is coming, Olam Haba, often refers to Binah, the continuous source of emanation who gives birth to the lower Sefirot. The world that is coming, constantly coming, never ceasing. So amazingly, Binah is this ever-giving thing. It seems like Olam Haba is this ever-giving state of being. Yeah, we're going to end right now. Just 2 more points. Prophets of truth, the Sefirot of Netzach and Hod, the source of prophecy. Yosef symbolizes the Sefirah of Yesod, the divine vow, since he withstood the test of sexual temptation in Egypt, exactly like we said. Upper triad of Sefirot, it flows into him when Yesod enters Shekhinah. The Sefirot triad is planted there and revealed. Though Yosef never returned to the land of Israel, his bones did. And we just discussed that with the rabbi. Last 2 points. When the rainbow is revealed, the rainbow symbolizes both Yesod and Shekhinah, in whose union are revealed in their respective colors, white, red, and green, much deeper than meets the eye. They would not remain. The wicked would not remain. The voice of the children. Resh Lakish said in the name of Rabbi Yehuda, the prince, the world endures only for the sake of the breath of children in the house of study. So we'll stop there for now. But it seems like the idea of hope and of children has a lot to do with this idea of what the Avot are representing and standing for. Olam Haba has something to do with it. To be continued, guys. What a pleasure! Thank you, everybody, for participating. Really, such a pleasure to learn this with you guys and to start a new adventure. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen ve'amen. Hazak Baruch. Thank you, Rabbi, for your help. Of course.